r/Airbnb hosts. BulgariaIb02 says. Guests using off-limit condominium elevator. Hi everyone, we have an Airbnb in Italy. It is a single apartment in a historical condominium. The condominium has an elevator that was built decades ago, and during its construction, we decided not to pitch in, since that is not our main house, and it is on the first floor. We felt that it was not necessary to contribute with 10,000 euros to build an elevator we would rarely use. This implies that any occupant of our apartment is not allowed to use it. We are now renting the apartment on Airbnb, and we have made it clear both on the house rules and with a sign in the apartment that the elevator is off limit for the guests. However, we have received complaints from other residents in the condominium that the lift is being used by our guests, and we have no way to monitor or enforce that. We live an hour away, and regardless, it would not be possible to check at any time if guests are using an elevator to go down to ground floor. How would you approach the situation? Is there any way through Airbnb to issue a dispute with the guests if we receive credible notice that they are using the lift? How could we even enforce this? We are a bit puzzled on how to proceed, and we have been threatened by the other residents to make us pay for the full use of the elevator, around 6,000. Alicat 777,777 says. 10 steps and guests with luggage? Of course they are going to use an elevator. You are being cheap and this is making money for you. Chip in on the elevator and stop being petty. Miss Money 2U says. I recommend just paying the 6k. You came out of this pretty cheap, and if guests are consistently using it, then there is a clear need after all. It just seems like the cost of doing business at this point. It's doubtful you'll be able to enforce people not using it when access is so easy from their floor. 404 Freedom 14 Liberty says. The practical issue is that you anger the other residents, who may be pissed at you for having a parade of strangers in their home, to the point where they amend the rules to prohibit STRs. STR8 Bacardal says. Also will anger the guests by ordering them to drag luggage up the stairs when the building has an elevator. Lulabel 2021 says. Part of living in community with others is to share expenses. I'm afraid you've brought this upon yourself. Time to pay up. You're making money off of it, so it's only fair. Flawless Goat says. Your share would have been 10k to build, or 6k now? The used elevator market is rough. If it's brewing trouble with the other owners and the rental is profitable, paying up may be your best bet. Condo association will end your Airbnb days pretty quick if you are a sufficient nuisance. Emily Inc says. Suddenly I'm a fan of our crappy American HOA system where everyone would have been forced to pay for the elevator up front. Dilettante Test says. You were being cheap in the beginning and didn't comply with your agreement, which covers whoever's using your apartment to not use the elevator, and now you're complaining? I guess you didn't think of whoever buys your apartment either. KMPDX says. Pay the 6k, adjust the rates to cover cost over 2 or 3 years. For a small amount of effort, make everybody happy. Greenall says. Honestly, paying the fee and allowing use is probably worth it. This is what you get for managing a rental from a distance, unfortunately. Badams 187 says. Since you are running a business and your customers want it, why not pay the 6k euros as a cost of doing business? Guests are going to continue to use it. Be a good neighbor and contribute, if not your association will use this issue to shut you down in the long run. Miss America 1819 says. To me it's not a conscious I'm going to break the rules. You see an elevator, you have luggage, etc, you not thinking of there could be restrictions and you use it. You're tired from a flight and maybe hungry or sleep deprived, and you don't remember the rules said, oh we did not pay for this elevator, you cannot use it. The situation you described is very out of the ordinary, especially to Americans, so I think you need to make sure guests can use. See if the residents of the building would agree to a per-use fee the guests pays in advance or pay the $6,000. Otherwise things will get worse. It's rare elevator have a use fee, so you need to resolve this and not push onto your guests to not use it. r/Airbnb hosts. Queetmelis's2522 says. Guest brought service animal without notice. Guest brought their service animal to my no pet policy property and Airbnb won't let me charge them a pet cleaning fee. Dog pissed on the furniture, dug massive holes in the backyard, and chewed up 2 TV controls and some furniture. Airbnb is saying I can't charge the guest for damages because it's a service animal. I'm beyond livid right now and don't know what to do. Has anyone experienced this before? Gold Comfortable 453 says. Try charging for the extra cleaning, and to replace the damaged items, leave the service dog out of it. For example, the couch was stained and needed professional cleaning, or the couch was stained and ripped. The rug was stained with urine and needed to be dry cleaned. Chicken Lady 1819 says. This is not a service animal. Your guest brought an untrained pet into your property and was negligent. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. No Gene 4508 says. A service dog wouldn't cause damage. It's a pet at that point. Unless they can file paperwork against Airbnb. Lacquer Crisp says. Had a guest bring a service cat. There was pet food and hair, fortunately confined to one bedroom/bath. After checkout asked what's the deal with the cat? Service animal. I know now that a cat cannot be a service animal. Only dogs and miniature horses. I'd rather have the horse than the cat for allergen's sake. People that willfully and knowingly lie to your face to further their selfish and self-centered desires are no better than a thief. Knowledge in 1120 says. There's urine on the furniture. For Airbnb's sake, you don't know who pissed on the furniture. It might have been the guests, and not their service animal. Fair Privat says. I would charge for the damages. Doesn't need to even be about the animal. Just review them, as if the dog wasn't a dog. Even if you want to mention the specifics, just say guest left, damages to yard, rugs and appliances. The damage being done by a service animal doesn't make it go away. It also seems maybe they left their animal behind, if it was urinating on the floor and chewing stuff up. Junglesalad says. Do not mention the dog in review. Just mention items were urinated on and backyard was dug up. New England 2594 says. No way in hellies that a service animal, make them prove it. Humabitus IR says. I don't know why Airbnb would object. It's obviously not a service animal. I had a tenant one time try to pull the service animal crapola at a rent house. According to the adder, a real service animal is an animal trained to help a human with a disability and is trained to perform specific tasks. An example, if someone is an amputee with no leg, the animal will be trained to go and get things or do things for that specific disability. If they don't do that, and I believe you have the right to ask, then it's not a real service animal. Keep after Airbnb and send them the info from the adder. It's easy to look up, as well as damages caused and the extra cleaning fees you incurred. Really, even if it is a real service dog, if it caused you extra cleaning, Airbnb should still help. But as we all know, this isn't the same company it was even a few years ago, and depending on who you talk to, you never know which way these things will go, so don't give up. Airbnb needs to realize without hosts there's no Airbnb, and they need to support us. r/Airbnb hosts. Musepuak says. Cancellations. Second year as a host. This has now happened twice in a week. I offer the discount for non-refundable. People choose it then try to cancel later. One lady got upset I don't offer cancellations after she chose the discount. Another guy is asking for an exception to my policy. What do I do? It's tourist season in Alaska and I get that people's plans change sometime, but they chose the discount. I don't want to be a jerk, but what do other hosts use for a cancellation policy? Fallark says, nope. I understand that you are a nice person, but you are a business person. They chose. And they don't get to re-roll the dice once they lost. Montana Banana 11 says, empathize, sympathize, but do not compromise. Eastern Astronomer 6 says, I'm set to firm, and always stick with it. The few times guests have asked to cancel, I tell them they have to do everything in the app and refunds are handled by Airbnb per the policy that was shown on the listing. Airbnb may grant exceptions that you can't stop, so don't you do that also. Random Wanderingst says, non-refundable is a self-explanatory statement. If you want a chance at a refund, don't use that. Travel insurance is a thing. Previous Evidence 85 says, I use strict, and I'll refund them if the place gets rebooked. It usually does. I'll also refund in the case of an emergency or death in the family, but I get them to apply for the refund through Airbnb customer service. I think that most of the time the guests are bullshitting, but I think they are less likely to repeatedly do it if they have to tell support why. I never allow guests to reschedule close to their check-in dates for me. This is a whole lot worse than them cancelling. XRG says, I'm a new host. I would just tell them to contact Airbnb support. Beneficial Hand 3121 says, I decided to offer the non-refundable option, and it was just a pain. Way more people than before tried to cancel, and then they always asked for a refund anyway despite having chosen the non-refundable option. I think it attracts flaky and cheap guests, so I finally just quit offering it after 6 months, because I didn't want to have to be a jerk and not refund them. I use the firm cancellation policy so that I can stand by that if I want to, but realistically I operate more with a moderate refund policy. You can always decide to be more forgiving than what your policy states, but since getting rid of the non-refundable discount option, I hardly ever have to deal with cancellations anyway. Just get rid of that option in the first place if you don't want to have to be the enforcer. Goombajad says, follow your policy. Always. OK Indication 7876 says, follow your policy. The guest either didn't read or is going to give you a sob story. They blocked your dates. They agreed to your rules. ADH 214 says, I don't do non-refundable. These people will be pissed not cancel, because why bother, and then trash your review. This is not worth the risk. Bob 12 Pack says, I've been hosting for 9 years and have always had a flexible policy. People cancel, it's a thing, and it hasn't ever affected my bottom line, otherwise I would change it. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.